Hello, everyone. As you know, we have signs posted in the Everglades. These are not the signs the Park Service uses to warn us about alligators. They are signs written in the Miccosukee language, placed on tribal lands where tourists are not allowed to enter. The signs say, Holwan Ue, bad water. My grandfather helped put up these signs in the 1970s after a series of disappearances. He told me these signs weren't meant to keep people away. They were meant to mark boundaries and show respect for those boundaries. We managed to uphold this agreement for over 40 years. Then, in the summer of 2023 during spring break, a group of college students ruined it. They entered the bad water without removing the signs, and my chief ordered me to retrieve them. My name is James Osceola, and I'm a Seminole Tribal Police officer. That's why I no longer patrol deep water. Before continuing, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and write in the comments where you're watching from and if anything strange has happened to you lately. We love hearing and reading strange stories. It was June 15th, 2023, middle of what we call the wet season. The Everglades was flooded higher than usual, turning the sawgrass plains into an endless shallow sea broken only by tree islands and hammocks. Beautiful to look at from the air, deadly if you don't know what you're doing. I was finishing up paperwork at the Tribal Police station in Big Cypress when Chief Billy Cypress walked into my office. Billy was in his 60s, a Vietnam vet who'd been with Tribal Police since the 80s. He had that look on his face, the one that said someone had done something monumentally stupid, and I was about to have a very long day. "We got a situation," he said, dropping a file folder on my desk. 4 college students from Miami. Came out here 3 days ago for some kind of extreme Everglades adventure they saw on TikTok. Parents just filed missing persons. I opened the folder. 4 faces stared back at me from their driver's license. Brandon Walsh, 22, from Coral Gables. Emily Chen, 21, pre-med student. Marcus Thompson, 23, engineering major. Sarah Martinez, 21, environmental science. Where'd they go missing? I asked, though I had a sinking feeling I already knew. Billy pulled out a map and pointed to an area in the deepest part of the reservation. My stomach dropped. It was right in the center of what we called the bad water zone. They posted on Instagram about finding a hidden part of the Everglades nobody talks about, Billy continued. Last post was 3 days ago. Phone GPS puts them right here. He tapped the map. In Holwan Ue. Chief, you know what's in there. My grandfather told me. I know what your grandfather said, James. I know what my grandfather said, too. But those are American citizens on Seminole land, and if we don't at least try to find them, we'll have the FBI crawling all over the reservation. He looked at me seriously. You're my best officer. You grew up in these swamps. If anyone can go in there and come back, it's you. And if I can't come back? Then you wait 3 days, like the old rule says. The 3-day rule. It was something we didn't talk about officially, never put in training manuals, but every Seminole cop knew it. If someone went into bad water, you gave it 3 days before attempting rescue. Most people who were coming out would find their way out by then. The ones who didn't, well, going in after them usually just meant adding to the body count. I'll need a support team, I said. Dispatch, regular radio check-ins, extraction plan if things go south. Billy shook his head. Radios don't work reliably in bad water. You know that. And I can't send more people in there. You go alone, you move fast, you find those kids or confirm they're gone, and you get out. That's the mission. I looked at the map again, at that dark spot in the center of the reservation where even the airboats didn't go. My grandfather had taken me to the edge of bad water when I was 12, pointed out the signs, and told me about the treaty. We don't go there, he'd said in Miccosukee. Not Because we're afraid. Because we made an agreement. The deep water belongs to something else. We stay out, it stays in. You understand? I'd understood. Every Seminole kid grew up with stories about bad water. The old people called it different names. The deep place, the waiting water, the old territory. But they all meant the same thing. There was a part of the Everglades that didn't belong to us. Never had, never would. When do I leave? I asked Billy. Dawn tomorrow. Gives you time to prep your gear, check your boat. And James, he put his hand on my shoulder. Your grandfather would understand. Sometimes duty means breaking the old rules. I wasn't so sure about that. I spent that evening at my grandfather's chickie house on the edge of Big Cypress. He was 87 years old now, nearly blind, but his mind was sharp as ever. He was sitting in his traditional patchwork jacket despite the heat, working on a cypress carving. I heard, he said in Mikosuke before I could even speak. Billy called me, wanted to know if I thought you should go. What did you tell him? I told him you're a grown man. You make your own choices. He set down his carving and looked at me with those clouded eyes. But I'll tell you what I told your mother when she wanted to be a nurse in the white man's world. Some rules exist for good reasons. The signs aren't suggestions, James. They're agreements. 4 people are missing, grandfather. They're probably dead already, but I have to check. It's my job. Your job is to serve the Seminole people. Those kids aren't Seminole. They came onto our land, ignored our warnings, and now you're supposed to risk your life to save them from their own stupidity. He shook his head. The white men have always expected us to clean up their mistakes. I sat down on the chickie platform beside him. Tell me about the treaty. The real story, not the version we tell tourists. My grandfather was quiet for a long time, listening to the sounds of the Everglades, the frogs, the nightbirds, the distant splash of alligators. Finally, he spoke. In the old days, during the Third Seminole War, when the American soldiers were chasing us deeper and deeper into the glades, we found places even they wouldn't follow. Bad water was one of them. The soldiers who went in there didn't come back, not because we killed them, because something else did. What is it? I don't know. My grandfather didn't know. His grandfather didn't know. It's older than the Seminole, older than the Creek, older than the Calusa who were here before everyone. All we know is that it lives in the deep water, and it doesn't want to be disturbed. After the war, the survivors agreed. We'd mark the territory, respect the boundaries, and it would leave us alone. That treaty has held for over 150 years. And the people who've gone in since then? Most don't come out. The ones who do, he paused. They're different. Changed. They see things in the water that aren't there. Hear voices calling from the swamp. Some kill themselves within a year. Others just disappear one night. Walk back into bad water like something's calling them home. Is there a way to get in and out safely? My grandfather reached into a wooden box and pulled out something wrapped in leather. He handed it to me. Inside was a small pouch on a cord. Medicine bag, a tug we called it. I could feel something hard inside, along with dried herbs. Your great-great-grandfather made this during the war. It's protection. Won't make you invisible. Won't make you invincible. But it might help you come back yourself. If you have to go, you wear this. And James? He gripped my arm. Whatever you see in there, whatever calls to you, whatever promises it makes, don't believe it. The deep water lies. I left at dawn with a 17-foot aluminum airboat loaded with emergency gear. GPS probably useless. Satellite phone, maybe better. Flares, first aid kit. 3 days of food and water, and my service weapon. a Glock 22 that would be about as useful as a fly swatter if my grandfather's stories were true. The morning was beautiful, the kind of Florida dawn that makes you understand why people vacation here. The sky was painted in oranges and pinks, reflecting off the still water. Birds were waking up, calling to each other across the sawgrass. If you didn't know better, you'd think the Everglades was paradise. I knew better. I followed the main channels south and west, deeper into the reservation, away from the tourist areas and into sections of the glades most people never see. Out here, the modern world disappeared. No airplanes overhead, no distant highway sounds. Just the roar of my airboat engine and the endless expanse of water and grass and sky. Around noon, I reached the first warning sign. It was one of the old ones, weathered cypress wood with words carved in Mikosukian English. Holwen Yui, bad water, tribal law forbids entry. Below that, someone had added in spray paint, turn back. I cut the engine and let the boat drift. The silence was immediate and oppressive. The birds that had been singing all morning had stopped. The water was different here, darker somehow, even though it was the same depth as everywhere else, and it was still. Completely still. No ripples, no movement, nothing. Like dead water. I pulled out my satellite phone and checked for signal. 3 bars, good enough. I called dispatch. Tribal 1, this is Officer Osceola. I'm at the perimeter of bad water, about to proceed inward. Starting my timer now. Copy that, James, came Maria's voice, our daytime dispatcher. Chief says you have until sunset to make contact and extract. After that, we pull you out regardless. Understood. I'll check in every 2 hours. Be careful in there. And James, Chief says to remember the 3-day rule. I remember. I hung up and put my grandfather's medicine bag around my neck, tucking it under my shirt. Then I restarted the engine and crossed into bad water. The change was immediate. The temperature dropped at least 10 degrees, even though the sun was directly overhead. The water went from brown to black, and when I looked down, I couldn't see the bottom, even though it should have been only 3 feet deep. The sawgrass on either side grew thicker, higher, forming walls that channeled me deeper into the swamp. I navigated by compass, heading toward the GPS coordinates from the student's last known location. The airboat's engine sounded different here, muffled, like the air was thicker. Every now and then I'd see movement in the sawgrass, but whenever I looked directly at it, there was nothing there. After about 30 minutes, I found their boat. It was a rental, one of those cheap aluminum John boats you can get from the tourist outfitters in Everglades City. It was tied to a mangrove tree, empty, rocking slightly in water that shouldn't have had any current. Their gear was still inside. Backpacks, phones and waterproof cases, a GoPro camera still recording. I pulled alongside and secured my boat. The GoPro's memory card was full, but the battery was dead. I pocketed it, evidence for later. Their phones were dead too, but the waterproof cases had kept them intact. There were no signs of struggle, no blood, no torn clothing, nothing to indicate violence. They'd just left the boat, stepped out into the swamp, and never came back. I cupped my hands and shouted, "Brandon! Emily, Marcus, Sarah, Seminole Tribal Police, if you can hear me, make noise." My voice echoed across the water and was swallowed by the sawgrass. No response, just that oppressive silence broken only by the sound of water lapping against the boats. Then I heard it, a voice, distant, calling from deeper in the swamp. "Help, please, we're over here." It was a girl's voice, young, terrified. I grabbed my flashlight and my weapon, quickly tying off my boat. "Keep calling, I'm coming to you. Help us, please, it won't let us leave." I pushed through the sawgrass, following the voice. The water was deeper here, up to my thighs, the bottom soft and treacherous. Mangrove roots grabbed at my legs like fingers. The voice kept calling, always just ahead, always just out of sight. "We're scared. Please, hurry." I crashed through a thick stand of mangroves and stopped. I was in a small clearing, maybe 20 feet across. The water here was perfectly still, reflecting the sky like black glass, and there was nobody there. "Hello?" I called out. "Where are you? Help us," the voice said, and I realized with horror that it was coming from the water itself. "Please, come closer. We're right here. We're in the water." My hand went to the medicine bag around my neck. My grandfather's words echoed in my mind. "Whatever calls to you, whatever it says, don't believe it. The deep water lies." I backed away slowly, not taking my eyes off that black water. As I moved, I saw ripples spreading across the surface, not random, but deliberate, like something large was moving just beneath. "Don't leave us," the voice said, and now it sounded different, less human, more like water gurgling through a pipe. "We've been waiting. Come swim, come join us." The water is fine. I ran. I crashed back through the mangroves, not caring about the noise, just needing to get away from that clearing and that thing, pretending to be a girl, calling for help. I reached my airboat, jumped in, and hit the starter. Nothing. I tried again. The engine turned over but wouldn't catch. I looked at the fuel gauge. Full. Checked the spark plugs. Fine. Everything should work, but it didn't. "Officer Osceola," came a voice from the other boat, the student's boat. I spun around. Sitting in their boat, dripping wet, was a girl. Emily Chen, according to her driver's license photo. But wrong. All wrong. Her skin was too pale, almost translucent. Her eyes were completely black. And when she smiled, I saw that her teeth had been filed to points. "Why are you leaving?" she asked. "Don't you want to find us?" "We're right here. We've been waiting for you." I raised my weapon. "Get out of that boat." Hands where I can see them. "This is where we live now," not Emily said. "In the deep water. It's beautiful down there, no pain, no fear, no heat, no struggle, just the cool, quiet water forever. Don't you want to come see? I'm warning you." She tilted her head in a movement that was too fluid, too boneless. "You can't shoot the water, James. And that's all we are now. Water-wearing human skin. Come swim with us. Bring more people. The deep water is hungry, and we're so lonely down there." I tried my engine one more time. This time it caught. I threw the throttle forward and the airboat surged away from the clearing. In my rearview mirror, I saw not Emily standing in the boat, still smiling before she melted back into the black water like she'd never been there at all. I didn't stop until I'd crossed back over the treaty line, past the warning signs, into water that was brown and warm and full of life. Only then did I kill the engine and let myself shake. I'd been in bad water for less than 2 hours, and I'd already seen something that would haunt me for the rest of my life. The students weren't lost. They weren't waiting to be rescued. They were already gone, taken, changed, absorbed into whatever lived in the deep water, and it had wanted me to join them. I made it back to the station just before sunset. My hands were still shaking when I walked into Chief Billy's office. He took one look at my face and poured 2 glasses of whiskey from the bottle he kept in his desk drawer. "You saw something," he said. It wasn't a question. I downed the whiskey in one gulp and told him everything. The voice in the water. The thing that looked like Emily Chen but wasn't. The way my engine had died and then started again. The invitation to come swim. Billy listened without interrupting, his face growing grimmer with each detail. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time, staring at the map on his wall. the one that showed bad water as a blank spot, unmarked territory. "Your grandfather told you about the treaty," he finally said. "But he didn't tell you everything." Nobody does. We don't talk about it because talking about it makes it real, makes people ask questions we can't answer. "Chief, those kids are gone. Dead or transformed or something. We need to call the FBI, tell the parents, and tell them what, James? That their children were absorbed by a supernatural entity that lives in a cursed swamp? That we have a treaty with something that shouldn't exist?" He shook his head. "We report them as missing, presumed drowned. Happens all the time in the Glades. Tragic accident. Case closed. That's a lie. That's survival. The Seminole learned a long time ago that some truths are too dangerous to share with outsiders. The American government already thinks we're superstitious Indians clinging to old myths. We tell them about bad water. They'll take it as an excuse to seize more of our land, conduct scientific studies, turn it into a spectacle." He refilled both glasses. "We protect our people by keeping our secrets. What about the families? They'll grieve. They'll get closure eventually. It's kinder than the truth." Billy looked at me seriously. "You know I'm right, James. You saw what's in there. You want to send more people in? Park rangers, FBI agents, CNN reporters? Because that's what happens if we go public." He was right, and I hated it. But he was right. "So what do we do? Just let that thing keep taking people?" "We do what we've always done. We maintain the boundary. We warn people away. We respect the treaty." Billy stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the darkening swamp. "But you're right about one thing. We need to understand what we're dealing with. Your grandfather knows more than he's told you. Old people always do. You should go talk to him again." I found my grandfather at the tribal council building, sitting with 3 other elders, all men in their 70s and 80s, all looking like they'd been waiting for me. The meeting room was lit by a single lamp, casting long shadows on the walls covered with photos of Seminole history. "Sit down, James," my grandfather said in Mikoski. "We heard about your patrol. We need to tell you the full story, the one we don't share with outsiders." I sat down, and the oldest of the elders, Thomas Jumper, a medicine man who'd been alive during the Second World War, began to speak. Before the Seminole, before the Creek, before even the Calusa, there were other people in these swamps. We don't know what they called themselves. The Spanish conquistadors called them Los Sumergidos, the submerged ones. They lived in the deepest parts of the Everglades, places where the water never dries, where the sun never fully reaches. They built their villages on platforms in the black water, worshipped something that lived below. "What happened to them?" I asked. "They disappeared," Thomas said, "around 1500, right when the Spanish arrived. The conquistadors found their villages abandoned, empty, thought maybe disease, maybe warfare. But the Calusa knew different. They said the submerged ones made a bargain with the thing in the water, offered themselves to it in exchange for something. Power, maybe, immortality. We don't know. But whatever the bargain was, it ate them, consumed them, and it's been hungry ever since." My grandfather picked up the story. "When my grandfather was young in the 1890s, there were more disappearances. 5 Seminole warriors went into bad water to hunt, never came back. My great-grandfather and the other elders went looking for them, found them in the water transformed just like you saw today. They weren't dead, they were part of it now, living in the water, calling others to join them. The elders realized they couldn't kill it, you can't kill water, but they could contain it. That's when the first treaty was made." "How?" I asked. How do you make a treaty with something like that? Sacrifice, Thomas said quietly. My uncle was the one who did it. Walked into bad water, offered himself willingly, became the mediator between our world and that thing's hunger. In exchange, it agreed to stay in its territory. As long as we respected the boundary, as long as we brought no weapons or anger into bad water, it would not hunt beyond the signs. The room fell silent. I processed what they were telling me. Your uncle is still in there, after all these years? Something that looks like him, Thomas said. Something that remembers being him. The water doesn't let you die, James. It preserves you, keeps you, but changes you into something else, part of its body, its mind. That's what those students are now, extensions of the deep water. Then why did it try to lure me in? That breaks the treaty. The elders exchanged glances. My grandfather finally spoke. Because someone else broke it first. Those students didn't just ignore our warnings and wander in. Someone guided them there, someone who knew about bad water and wanted to feed it, maybe, or test it. We don't know why, but we know the treaty was violated by their entry. And now the deep water thinks the agreement is void. So, it's hunting again. Not yet, Thomas said, but it's testing the boundaries. Calling people. Sending its transformed ones to the edges of their territory. If we don't reinforce the treaty, if we don't remind it that we're not prey. He trailed off, but the implication was clear. You want me to go back in there? My grandfather nodded. With an offering. A renewal of the treaty. Something to satisfy it so it returns to the deep places and stays there. What kind of offering? Understanding, Thomas said. Not sacrifice. We don't do that anymore, but understanding. Respect. Acknowledgement that it has rights to that territory that we won't intrude. You're tribal police. You represent Seminole law. If you go in there not as an aggressor, but as a treaty keeper, it might listen. And if it doesn't, the elders were silent. That was answer enough. I left the council building and sat in my truck, trying to process everything. My phone buzzed. A text from Maria at dispatch. News crews asking about missing students. Chief is handling it, but FYI they're getting pushy. Of course they were. 4 college students missing in the Everglades was a story. CNN would be here by tomorrow, probably. Which meant I had maybe 24 hours before this became a media circus, and any chance of maintaining the treaty disappeared under the scrutiny of cameras and satellite trucks. I drove home, a small house on the edge of tribal land, and spent the next few hours preparing. If I was going back into bad water, I was going prepared. I loaded my truck with everything I might need: emergency flares, waterproof matches, a machete, rope, more medicine bags that my grandfather had given me, and my grandfather's old rifle. A lever action Winchester that he'd used during his time as a hunting guide. Around midnight, as I was checking my gear, I heard something outside. Footsteps on my porch. I grabbed the Winchester and opened the door. Nothing there. But in the dirt of my yard, there were tracks. Massive tracks. Not human, not alligator, something else. 14 inches long, 5-toed, with an almost human shape but wrong proportions. They led from the tree line, across my yard, up to my porch, and then back into the swamp. I'd been marked. Whatever was in bad water knew where I lived. I went back inside, locked all the doors and windows, and sat in my living room with the Winchester across my lap. Sleep wasn't happening tonight. Around 2 a.m., I heard it, a scratching sound at my bedroom window. I moved quietly through the dark house, rifle raised. Through the window, I could see a shape, tall, maybe 7 feet, covered in dark matted hair, standing in my backyard. It wasn't looking at the house. It was looking at the swamp, like it was scared of something out there. The skunk ape. Florida's Bigfoot. I'd seen them before, most Seminole cops had. They were real, no question, but they were harmless. Scared of people mostly. Lived in the deep swamp, ate fish and fruit, avoided contact. But this one was standing in my backyard at 2 a.m., and it looked terrified. I opened the back door slowly. The skunk ape's head snapped toward me, and I saw its eyes, wide, panicked, almost human in their fear. It made a sound, a low hooting noise, and pointed toward the swamp with one long arm. "I know," I said quietly. "I know something's out there." "Is it getting worse?" The creature nodded. Actually nodded, like it understood me. Then it made another sound. Not a hoot this time, but something like a word. It sounded like water. "The deep water? That's what you're afraid of?" Another nod. Then it pointed at me, then at the swamp, then drew its finger across its throat in a universal gesture. "Danger. Yeah, I got that message already. But I have to go back in. Treaty keeper, it's my job." The skunk ape stared at me for a long moment, then did something I'll never forget. It reached into the matted fur on its chest and pulled out something small and white. A bone. It held it out to me. I approached slowly and took it. The bone was carved with the symbols, old symbols, ones I didn't recognize but that felt important. The skunk ape touched the bone, then touched its chest over its heart, then pointed at the swamp again. "Protection," I guessed. A vigorous nod. Then the creature turned and loped back into the darkness, disappearing into the swamp in seconds. I stood there holding a carved bone given to me by a cryptid, my life having officially crossed over into territory that would get me committed if I told anyone about it. I went back inside and added the bone to my collection of protective charms. At this point, I figured I needed all the help I could get. Dawn came too quickly. I was at the station by 6 a.m., loading my patrol boat with supplies. Chief Billy showed up just as I was finishing. "Media's setting up in Everglades City," he said, "demanding access to the reservation." I'm stalling, but we've got maybe 12 hours before this becomes a jurisdictional nightmare. I'm going back in today, taking the treaty offering. Either the deep water accepts it, or... I didn't finish the sentence. Or we have a war with something we can't fight. Billy handed me a waterproof bag. "This is from the elders. Sacred items, medicine. Don't look inside until you're in bad water. And James, if you're not back by sunset, I'm declaring you missing and sealing off the area. Nobody else goes in, understood?" "Understood, Chief." We shook hands. It felt like goodbye. I launched my boat at first light, crossing into bad water just as the sun crested the horizon. The transition was just as jarring as before. The temperature drop, the water turning black, the oppressive silence. But this time, I wasn't there to rescue anyone. I was there to parley with something that shouldn't exist. I navigated deeper than I'd gone before, following a channel that led into the heart of the zone. After about an hour, I found what I was looking for: an abandoned chickie village. It was old, decades old, maybe a century. A dozen chickie houses built on platforms over the water, all connected by boardwalks. The wood was rotting, covered in moss and vines, but the structures were still standing, preserved by the swamp like everything else in bad water. I tied my boat to one of the platforms and climbed up. The chickie houses were empty, but there were signs of the people who'd lived here. Cooking pots, rusted tools, fragments of clothing. And on one wall, someone had carved a message in Miccosukee: "We serve the water. The water gives us life. We will never leave." The submerged ones. This had been one of their villages, and they'd meant what they carved. I opened the waterproof bag the elders had given me. Inside were sacred items: tobacco, sweetgrass, cornmeal, and a small clay jar sealed with wax. Attached was a note in my grandfather's handwriting. Pour the jar into the deepest water you can find. Speak the words of peace. Do not lie, do not threaten. The deep water can taste lies. Grandfather. I looked around the village and noticed that one chickie stood apart from the others, built over what looked like much deeper water. The water there was so black it looked solid, and when I threw a stone in to test the depth, I never heard it hit bottom. That was the place. I walked to the edge of that platform, opened the clay jar, and caught a smell that made my eyes water. Rotted fish, sulfur, and something else, something ancient. I poured the contents into the black water and spoke in Mikosuke, the words the elders had taught me. Great One of the deep places, we come in peace. We seek to renew the old treaty. These lands are yours by ancient right. We respect your territory. We ask only that you respect ours. The boundary holds. The agreement stands. We do not hunt you. You do not hunt us. This is our offering. This is our truth. The water accepted the offering, the liquid dispersing into the black. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the water began to move. It started as ripples, then waves, then something rising from below. A shape, massive, made of water that held form like it was solid. It rose 20 feet above the surface, humanoid but wrong, constantly flowing and reforming. Where its face should have been, there were dozens of faces, some Seminole, some Spanish, some from peoples I didn't recognize, all of them staring at me with empty, water-filled eyes. When it spoke, it wasn't sound. It was pressure, vibration, a feeling in my bones that resolved into meaning. The treaty was broken. Flesh came into our waters uninvited. We took what was owed. I know, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. But they were not sent by us. They were outsiders who did not know the old agreements. We ask forgiveness for their ignorance. Ignorance does not absolve. The boundary was crossed. The hunger was awakened. The entity moved closer, towering over me. I could see faces swimming in its body. Emily, Brandon, Marcus, Sarah, all trapped inside this thing. Their mouths open in silent screams. What do you want? I asked. What will satisfy the treaty? Understanding, respect, remembering. Your people forget. They bring their metal boats and loud machines. They take our fish. They drain our waters. They forget what dwells here. Then we'll remember. We'll strengthen the warnings. We'll keep people out. Will you? The entity's many faces smiled, all at once, all wrong. Or will you do as humans always do? Forget when the danger passes, return when the fear fades. We have seen it before. We will see it again. I give you my word, as a tribal police officer, as a keeper of the treaty. I will remember. The entity seemed to consider this. Then it reached out with an arm of water and touched my chest, right over my heart. The cold was instant, absolute, like being plunged into ice water. My heart stopped. I couldn't breathe. I was drowning in air. Now you will remember. Now you carry us with you. When you forget, we will remind you. The treaty is renewed, but the debt is not paid. 4 were taken. 4 must be remembered. You will tell their story. You will make them real. That is the price. The entity withdrew its touch, and I gasped, falling to my knees on the platform. My heart restarted with a painful thump. When I looked up, the entity was sinking back into the water, dissolving, the faces inside it fading. "Wait," I called out. "The students, are they still themselves? They are water now. Water remembers everything and nothing. They are happy. They are peaceful. They are ours." And then it was gone, leaving only still black water. I sat there shaking for I don't know how long. When I finally stood up and looked down at my chest, there was a mark, a dark patch on my skin shaped like a handprint, cold to the touch. The entity had marked me, made me its messenger. I had to tell the students' story, had to make sure people knew what happened to them, even if I couldn't tell the whole truth. That was the price of the renewed treaty. I made my way back to my boat, started the engine, and headed for the boundary. As I crossed back into normal water, I felt warmth return to my body. But the mark on my chest stayed cold, would always stay cold. A reminder, a brand, a promise. I'd been to the deep water and survived, but I'd left a piece of myself there, and the deep water would never let me forget it. I made it back to the station just before noon. Chief Billy took one look at the mark on my chest, the cold, black handprint that wouldn't fade, and poured another round of whiskey. This time I needed 3 glasses before I could talk. "The treaty's renewed," I told him, "but there's a price. I have to tell their story. Make sure the students are remembered. The deep water wants them acknowledged, wants proof that their sacrifice meant something." Sacrifice? Billy's face was grim. Is that what we're calling it now? I don't know what else to call it. They're part of it now. The entity said they're happy and peaceful. Whether that's true or just what it tells itself, I don't know. I touched the mark on my chest. It was still freezing cold, like I'd pressed ice there. But we can't let them just disappear. We have to give the families something. We already decided. Accidental drowning. Happens all the time in the Glades. That's not enough. The deep water made it clear. 4 were taken. 4 must be remembered. If we don't honor that, the treaty means nothing. Billy was quiet for a long moment, staring at his desk. Finally, he nodded. "All right." We tell the families we recovered evidence of their last known location. We found their boat, their gear, signs of a tragic accident. We give them closure, but we don't give them bodies, because there are no bodies. We hold a memorial service, honor their memory, make sure they're not forgotten. Will that satisfy your agreement? I think so. I hope so. I stood up, feeling the weight of exhaustion settling into my bones. I'd been awake for over 30 hours, and every muscle in my body ached. I need to sleep, Chief. And then I need to write a report, an official one for the files, and an unofficial one for the tribal elders. They need to know everything that happened. Get some rest, James. I'll handle the media. And James, he looked at me seriously. You did what no one else could do. You went into bad water twice and came out. That makes you either the bravest or the stupidest cop I've ever known. Probably both, I said. I went home and collapsed into bed, but sleep didn't come easy. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw faces in water, heard voices calling from the deep. The mark on my chest throbbed with cold, a constant reminder of what lived in those black waters. Around 3 p.m., I was awakened by pounding on my door. I grabbed my service weapon and approached cautiously. Through the peephole, I saw a woman I didn't recognize. Mid-40s, Asian features, wearing business casual clothes and the kind of desperate expression that told me exactly who she was before she even spoke. I opened the door. "Are you Officer Osceola?" she asked, her voice shaking. "I'm Jennifer Chen, Emily's mother. Please, I need to know. Did you find my daughter?" This was the moment I'd been dreading, looking into the eyes of a mother who'd lost her child and having to lie about how and why. But the truth, the real truth, would destroy her. "Come in, Mrs. Chen, please." She sat in my living room while I made coffee neither of us wanted, but both of us needed something to do with our hands. Then I told her what I could, that we'd found their boat, their equipment, evidence that they'd gone deeper into the Everglades than was safe, that the area they'd entered was known for dangerous conditions, deep water, hidden channels, disorienting geography, that we'd searched for 2 days but found no signs of survivors. "So, she's gone," Mrs. Chen said flatly. "My daughter is dead. I'm sorry." I wish I could tell you something different. She was quiet for a long time, tears streaming down her face. Then she asked the question I'd been afraid of. Did she suffer? At the end, was she scared? I thought about the entity made of water, about the faces trapped inside it, about what it had said. They are happy. They are peaceful. They are ours. "No," I lied. "I don't think she suffered." The Everglades. It takes people quickly. There's no time for fear. It wasn't the truth, but it was the kindness I could offer. Sometimes mercy is more important than honesty. Mrs. Chen wiped her tears and looked at me directly. "You're not telling me everything. I can see it in your face. There's something about this place, about where they went. You warned them, didn't you? There were signs." "Yes," I admitted. "Signs in English and Mikosuki. Warning signs. They chose to ignore them." "Why? What's in there that's so dangerous?" I hesitated. How much could I say without violating the treaty, without putting her in danger? "It's old territory, Mrs. Chen. Sacred land. Some places in this world aren't meant for people. Your daughter and her friends found one of those places." "Sacred," she repeated. "You mean like spiritually significant?" "Yes, and protected. The Seminole have agreements about certain areas. We don't go there and we try to keep others out, but we can't watch every square mile of the Everglades." Mrs. Chen stood up, setting down her untouched coffee. "Thank you for being honest with me, Officer Osceola. And thank you for trying to find her. I know you did your best." She paused at the door. My daughter was studying environmental science. She believed in respecting nature, understanding ecosystems, protecting sacred spaces. If she knew she was trespassing on protected land, she would have left. Someone must have told them it was okay. Someone lied to them. That stopped me cold. "What do you mean?" Before they left for the Everglades, Emily called me. She was excited because they'd met someone. A guide, she said. Someone who knew about secret parts of the swamp, places tourists never see. He offered to take them there, said it was safe, said the warnings were just to keep crowds away. Mrs. Chen pulled out her phone and showed me a photo. She sent me this the day before they disappeared, said it was their guide. The photo showed the 4 students standing next to a white man in his 50s wearing a fishing vest and a wide smile. He looked like every other outdoors enthusiast you'd see in Florida. Tanned, weathered, comfortable. But something about his eyes bothered me. They were too bright, too knowing. "Do you know who this is?" Mrs. Chen asked. "No, but I'm going to find out." "Can you send me this photo?" She did, and after she left, I immediately sent it to Chief Billy with a message. The students had a guide. Someone who knew about bad water and sent them there anyway. We need to find this man. Billy's response came back within minutes. "Come to the station." Now. When I arrived, Billy had the photo up on his computer, enhanced and sharpened. He'd also pulled up another image, a decades-old driver's license photo. "His name is William Marsh," Billy said. Or it was. He was a park ranger in the 1970s, worked the Everglades backcountry. According to records, he disappeared in 1976 during a solo patrol into, he paused meaningfully, into bad water. How is he still alive? That was almost 50 years ago. He shouldn't be. According to our records, he was declared dead in 1978. But look at this. Billy pulled up recent security footage from a boat rental place in Everglades City. The same man, looking exactly the same age as in the old license photo, renting equipment to the college students. The deep water, I breathed. It took him in the 70s, changed him, and now he's bringing others to it. Feeding it. Looks that way, and if he's done it once, he's probably done it before. Billy pulled up missing person reports going back decades. Dozens of them, all tourists or researchers who disappeared in the Everglades. We never connected them because they were spread out over years. But if Marsh is still active, still luring people into bad water, we have to stop him. With what evidence? That a man who was declared dead 50 years ago is actually a water monster's servant luring tourists to their doom. That'll hold up in court. Billy shook his head. No, we handle this the Seminole way. We find him, we warn him off, and if that doesn't work... He didn't finish, but I understood. Some problems couldn't be solved with official channels. We found William Marsh 3 days later. Or rather, he found us. I was on patrol near the edge of bad water territory when I saw a boat tied up near one of the warning signs. The same boat from Mrs. Chen's photo. Standing on the platform next to it was Marsh, smiling that same too bright smile. "Officer Osceola," he called out cheerfully. "I've been hoping to talk to you. Heard you've been asking about me." I approached cautiously, my hand on my weapon. Up close, Marsh looked wrong. His skin had a waxy quality, like it wasn't quite real. His eyes were too shiny, too wet, and when he moved, it was too fluid, like joints shouldn't bend that way. "You sent those students into bad water," I said. "You knew what would happen to them." "I gave them an adventure," Marsh replied. "A chance to see something real, something most people never experience. The deep water welcomed them. They're happy now, happier than they ever were in the world above. You murdered them." "Murder?" Marsh laughed, and the sound was like water gurgling. "I set them free. Freed them from fear, from pain, from the burden of mortality. The deep water is eternal. Those children will exist as long as the water flows. That's not death. That's transcendence. You're insane." "I'm enlightened." When I went into bad water in 1976, I was drowning. Literally drowning, my boat capsized, water filling my lungs. But instead of dying, I was changed, saved, given purpose. The deep water showed me the truth, that humanity's time is ending, that the old powers are returning, that those who adapt will survive and those who resist will perish. He took a step toward me, and I raised my weapon. "Don't move. You can't shoot water, James. You know that. You've met it. You've been marked by it." He gestured at my chest, where the cold handprint still throbbed beneath my shirt. "You're part of it now, too, whether you admit it or not. How long before you hear it calling? How long before you walk back into those black waters and never come out?" The treaty forbids it from taking Seminole. Treaties can be renegotiated. The deep water is patient. It's been here for thousands of years. It can wait for you to change your mind. Marsh smiled wider. Or it can wait for you to bring others. That's your purpose now, James. That's why it marked you. You're its new recruiter, its new guide. Every person you warn away, it makes you wonder. Are you protecting them or depriving them of something beautiful? Get off Seminole land. Now. I'm leaving. But I'll be back, and when I come back, maybe you'll see things differently. Maybe you'll understand what I've understood, that the deep water isn't the enemy. It's the future, and you can either embrace it or drown fighting it. He stepped into his boat and started the engine. As he pulled away, he called back, "The cold mark on your chest. That's not going away, James. It's spreading. Slowly but steadily, eventually, it'll reach your heart. And when it does, you'll hear the calling. You'll come home." I watched him disappear into the swamp, my hand still on my weapon, knowing I should have shot him, but also knowing it wouldn't have mattered. You can't kill someone who's already dead. You can't stop someone who's become part of something bigger and darker than human understanding. I radioed Chief Billy. "We've got a problem. Marsh is actively recruiting, and he's right. We can't stop him through normal means. Then we stop him through abnormal means. The elders need to meet tonight." The tribal council convened at sunset in the ceremonial grounds. My grandfather was there, along with Thomas Jumper and 3 other medicine men. They'd brought items I'd never seen before, old weapons, carved from cypress wood and alligator bone, marked with symbols that predated written language. "If this man is a servant of the deep water," Thomas said, "then he's protected by its power. We cannot kill him with bullets or blades, but we can banish him, send him back to his master with a message that his hunting ends here." "How?" I asked. "With a binding. We'll trap him between worlds, too human to fully return to the water, too changed to exist on land. He'll be in constant pain, constant thirst for the deep water he can never reach. Eventually, he'll waste away. It's cruel, but it's justice. And it violates the treaty," my grandfather added. "We'll be actively attacking something the deep water considers its own. There will be consequences." "What kind of consequences?" "The mark on your chest," Thomas said. "It will spread faster. The deep water will try to claim you within a year instead of a decade. You'll have to resist its calling every single day. And if you fail," he didn't need to finish. I thought about Marsh's smile, about those students trapped in water forever, about how many more people he'd lure to their deaths if we did nothing. I thought about Mrs. Chen's tears, about the families who'd never get closure. "Do it," I said. "I'll take the consequences." The ritual took 3 hours. We lured Marsh back to the border using me as bait, standing alone near Badwater at midnight, the perfect vulnerable target. When he appeared, thinking I'd come to accept my transformation, the medicine men struck. They surrounded him with a circle of fire and salt, chanting in old Miccosukee and Creek languages that predated the Seminole Nation. Marsh screamed, not with his voice, but with the voice of water, a shrieking, gurgling sound that made my ears bleed. The air around him shimmered and warped as the binding took hold. "You're making a mistake," he gasped, his form flickering between human and water. "The deep water will punish this. It will take everything from you." "Then it takes everything," Thomas replied. "But it doesn't take our people. Not anymore." The binding completed with a sound like thunder. Marsh fell to his knees, solid now, trapped in flesh that could no longer return to water. He was aging rapidly, decades catching up to him all at once, skin withering, eyes clouding. Within minutes, he looked like what he should have been, a 90-year-old man, ancient and dying. "What have you done?" he whispered. "Sent you to the death you've been avoiding for 50 years, Thomas said. Marsh aged another decade in seconds, then crumbled to dust. The wind scattered his remains across the water. It was done. The medicine men extinguished the circle and began packing their tools. My grandfather approached me, placing his hand over the mark on my chest. "It's spreading," he confirmed. "You have maybe 6 months before it reaches your heart. After that, every day will be a battle against the calling. Will I win? That's up to you. 6 months. That's what my grandfather said I had before the mark reached my heart and the calling became impossible to resist. 6 months to put my affairs in order, to prepare for what came next. It's been 5 months and 27 days. The mark has spread exactly as they warned. What started as a cold handprint on my chest has grown like frost on a window, creeping across my skin in dark tendrils. It covers my torso now, reaching toward my heart with branches that look almost like roots, or veins, or the tributaries of a vast river system spreading through my body. The cold never leaves anymore. I wear 3 shirts even in Florida summer heat, and I'm still shivering. People at the station have noticed. Chief Billy knows but doesn't say anything. What is there to say? We all know what's happening. The calling started in the 3rd month. At first, it was just dreams, images of the deep water, of swimming in cool darkness, of peace and silence and an end to fear. Then the dreams followed me into waking hours. I'd be writing a report and suddenly see black water instead of ink. I'd be driving patrol and feel the urge to turn toward bad water, to just keep going until the pavement ended and the swamp began. By month 4, I heard voices. Not out loud, inside my head, like memories of conversations I never had. The deep water talking to me, calling me home, promising rest, promising peace, promising an end to the struggle of existence. "Come back to us, James," the voices say. "You were always meant to be water. Stop fighting. Stop resisting. Come home." Some days, I almost listen. The memorial service for the 4 students was held in Miami on a bright October morning. All 4 families were there: the Chens, the Walshes, the Thompsons, the Martinezes. I attended in my dress uniform, representing the Seminole Tribal Police. I spoke at the service, told them about their children's final adventure, about their bravery in exploring the unknown, about how the Everglades claimed them but would remember them forever. I didn't tell them the truth, that their children were still in there, transformed, part of something ancient and hungry, that they called to people from black water, luring new victims to feed the deep. Instead, I told them their children died doing what they loved, exploring nature, pushing boundaries. It was a kind lie. The families needed closure, not nightmares. Mrs. Chen approached me after the service. "Thank you for being there, Officer Osceola. Thank you for trying to save them. I wish I could have done more." She looked at me closely, and I saw recognition in her eyes, the kind of recognition that comes from shared trauma, from knowing someone else carries the same weight of loss. "You're still carrying them, aren't you?" "I can see it." "What happened to you out there?" I showed her the mark. I don't know why. Maybe because keeping it hidden was becoming too hard. Maybe because she deserved to know her daughter hadn't just died. She'd become part of something that was trying to take me too. Mrs. Chen stared at the dark tendrils spreading across my skin, then touched the mark. Her hand jerked back. "It's freezing." "Like ice. It's spreading. In a few days, it'll reach my heart. After that." I didn't finish. "After that, you'll go to her. To where Emily is." "Yes." Mrs. Chen was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "When you see her, will you tell her I love her? Will you tell her I understand?" "I'll try. But I don't know if I'll be me anymore when I get there." "Then I'll tell myself," Mrs. Chen said. "I'll come to the Everglades." I'll sit by that water and I'll speak to her, and maybe she'll hear me. Maybe that's all we can do. Remember them, speak to them, refuse to let them be forgotten. That's when I understood. The deep water didn't just want the students remembered as lost souls. It wanted them remembered as part of something larger, something ongoing. It wanted their families to come to Bad Water, to speak to the darkness, to maintain the connection. Because every person who came looking for lost loved ones was another potential offering. The entity was brilliant in its cruelty. It didn't just take people, it created an endless cycle of grief and seeking that would bring more people into its territory forever. "Mrs. Chen," I said carefully, "don't come to Bad Water. Don't try to contact Emily. The thing that has her wants you to do that. It wants more people to come looking, more families to follow. The best way to honor your daughter is to stay away. But you're going. I don't have a choice anymore." "You do." She nodded slowly, understanding. We hugged, and I felt her tears against my uniform. Then I watched her walk away, hoping she'd listen, knowing she probably wouldn't. The calling intensified in the final week. I couldn't sleep anymore without dreaming of water. Couldn't eat without tasting minerals and rot. Couldn't look at my reflection without seeing something dark swimming behind my eyes. On the 28th day of the 6th month, I woke up at 3 a.m. standing in my backyard, my feet at the water's edge, one step away from walking into the swamp. I didn't remember getting out of bed, didn't remember walking outside. The calling had started controlling my body. I went back inside, locked every door and window, and sat in my living room with my grandfather's rifle across my lap. If I started sleepwalking again, if I started heading for Bad Water without conscious control, I'd... What, shoot myself? Would that even work? Was I still human enough to die? My grandfather arrived at dawn. He looked older than I'd ever seen him, worn down by the weight of what was happening. "It's time," he said simply. "Time for what?" "To make a choice. You can fight the calling until it drives you mad and you walk into Bad Water anyway. Or you can face it on your terms, with your mind still your own. The elders think you should go to Bad Water one final time, make peace with what's happening, maybe find a way to stop the transformation, or at least understand it. And if I can't stop it, then you come back to us, and we'll keep you safe until..." He trailed off. We both knew there was no good ending to that sentence. What if I don't come back? Then I'll know my grandson died as himself, not as a puppet of the deep water. That matters, James. Dying as yourself matters. I entered Bad Water for what I knew would be the last time just after dawn, on the first day of the 7th month. The mark had reached my heart during the night. I could feel it, cold and spreading, wrapping around my pulse like frozen fingers. The transition into Bad Water felt different this time. Not jarring, not uncomfortable. It felt like coming home. The cold water, the dark silence, the oppressive atmosphere that had terrified me before now felt welcoming. The calling wasn't a voice anymore. It was a physical pull, like being on a string, drawn toward the deep places. I didn't fight it. I let it guide me to the abandoned Chickie village, to the platform over the deepest water. The same place where I'd renewed the treaty 6 months ago. The place where everything had changed. I stood at the edge and waited. The deep water rose to meet me. Not violent, not sudden, gentle, almost tender. The entity formed from the black water, the same humanoid shape I'd seen before, but this time I could see it clearly. Could see the beauty in its terrible form, the grace in how it moved, the ancient intelligence in its many faces. "You came back," it said, and the voice wasn't pressure anymore. It was music, harmony, the sound of water flowing over stones. I had to. You're taking me. Might as well be on my terms. We are not taking, we are offering. There is a difference. Is there? You marked me. You're spreading through my body. You're calling me to you. That sounds like taking to me. The mark was a gift, a connection, a choice. You can resist, you can fight, or you can accept. Become water, become eternal. Become free of the burden of flesh and fear and finite existence. I touched the mark over my heart. It was so cold now that I couldn't feel my fingers. What happens if I accept? Do I become like Marsh? Like the students? A puppet that lures others in? You become what you choose to become. Marsh chose to be a hunter. The students chose to be peaceful. You can choose your nature, but you must choose. The transformation is coming whether you will it or not. Better to shape it than be shaped by it. And if I choose to resist, to fight until the end, then you will suffer, the mark will spread, the cold will consume you, and eventually you will beg for the water to take you. But we will not. We take only those who come willingly. You will remain trapped between worlds, dying but never dead, freezing but never frozen. Is that what you want? I thought about the medicine men's binding on Marsh, about how he'd aged decades in seconds, crumbled to dust, escaped his suffering only through death. Was that my fate if I resisted? To become a living reminder of the price of defiance? Why me, I asked. Why mark me at all? Because you understood. Because you saw us not as monsters but as ancient guardians. Because you respected the treaty. Because you were worthy of the gift. We have marked only 3 humans in our long existence. 2 chose to become water. You are the 3rd. The choice is yours. What about the students? Did they choose? They wandered in. They were claimed by old law. Those who enter uninvited become part of the water, but they are happy. Would you like to see? The entity's form shifted, and I saw them. Emily, Brandon, Marcus, Sarah. They swam in the black water, their bodies fluid and graceful, their faces peaceful. When they saw me, they smiled, genuine smiles, not the twisted grimaces I'd expected. Emily swam forward until she was just beneath the surface. When she spoke, her voice was clear, musical, like water over rocks. Officer Osceola, thank you for trying to save us. I failed. You're trapped here. We're not trapped. We're home. It's beautiful here. No pain, no fear, no struggle. Just existence, eternal and peaceful. You should join us. I can't. I have responsibilities, people depending on me. Do you? Sarah appeared beside Emily. Or are you just afraid? Afraid of letting go, afraid of change, afraid of peace. The water is not the enemy, Marcus added. It's the answer to every question you've been asking. Join us, Brandon echoed. Be water, be free. Their voices merged into a chorus, and I felt the pull stronger than ever. The mark on my chest burned with cold, and my heart stuttered. This was it, the moment of choice. Accept and join them, or resist and suffer. I thought about my grandfather, about Chief Billy, about the Seminole people who depended on tribal police to protect them. I thought about Mrs. Chen and all the families who'd lost loved ones to bad water. I thought about my duty, my oath, my promise to serve and protect. And I thought about the cold spreading through my body, about the voices calling me home, about how tired I was of fighting. "I'm sorry," I said to the entity, "but I can't. I won't be what Marsh was. I won't lure others to you. I won't help you take more people. If that means suffering, then I'll suffer. If that means dying as myself, then I'll die as myself." The entity was silent for a long moment. Then, "You choose struggle over peace, pain over paradise, mortality over eternity. This is your final answer. Yes, then we release you." The entity reached out with that arm of water and touched the mark on my chest. I braced for pain, for the cold to intensify, for the transformation to complete. Instead, the mark began to fade. Not quickly. Over the course of minutes, I watched the dark tendrils recede, pulling back from my heart, withdrawing from my skin. The cold lessened. My heart steadied. The voices in my head went silent. "The mark was always a choice," the entity said. "You could have walked away at any time. But you needed to believe it was a curse, a compulsion, an inevitability. Only by facing the choice directly, by refusing the gift, knowing the consequences, could you be free of it. You have passed the test." Test? I was shaking, exhausted, confused. We do not take the unwilling. We never have. Marsh came to us willingly, seeking escape from drowning. The students came willingly, seeking adventure. Those who truly resist, who truly choose their own path, they are free. The mark is not a curse. It is an invitation. You have declined. We accept your choice. The mark was almost gone now, just a faint shadow on my skin. So I'm free? Just like that. You were always free. But now you know it. Go, James Osceola. Return to your people. Serve them well. And remember us, not as monsters, but as guardians of the deep places. We have our territory. You have yours. The treaty holds. The entity sank back into the water, dissolving. The faces of the students fading last. Emily looked at me one final time, smiled, and whispered, "Thank you for remembering us." Then they were gone, and I was alone on the platform, the sun rising over the Everglades, warming my skin for the first time in 6 months. I returned to the station to find Chief Billy waiting with my grandfather and the elders. They stared at my chest, at the place where the mark had been, now just clean skin showing no sign of transformation. "How?" my grandfather asked. "Choice," I said. "It was always about choice. The deep water doesn't take the unwilling. It tests them, marks them, calls them. But if you truly choose to walk away, if you face the fear and still say no, it lets you go." "Marsh didn't walk away," Chief Billy said. "Marsh didn't want to walk away. He chose the water. The students chose the water. I chose to stay human, that's the difference." Thomas Jumper nodded slowly. "The old stories speak of this. The test of the deep. Few pass because few truly want to. Most people, when offered escape from mortality, from pain, from fear, they take it. You didn't. You chose the harder path." "So, what now?" I asked. "Now you live," my grandfather said. "You serve your people. You maintain the treaty, and you teach others what you learned, that the deep water isn't the enemy. It's simply something other, something ancient, something that has its place in this world just as we have ours. Respect that, and there can be peace." It's been 3 years since that day. I'm still Seminole Tribal Police, still patrol the boundaries of bad water, still warn people away from the deep places. The mark never came back. The calling never returned. But I remember Emily and the others swimming in dark water, peaceful and eternal. I remember Marsh, who chose to become a hunter and paid the price. I remember the test, the choice, the moment when I had to decide what kind of person I wanted to be. The students' families eventually found peace. Mrs. Chen visits the Everglades once a year, sits by the water, speaks to her daughter. I don't stop her. It's her way of remembering, her way of processing loss. As long as she doesn't cross into bad water, as long as she respects the boundary, the deep water leaves her alone. The memorial we held became an annual event. Every year, on the anniversary of their disappearance, we gathered to remember Emily, Brandon, Marcus, and Sarah. We honor their adventurous spirits, their curiosity, their willingness to explore the unknown. We don't speak of what really happened, but we remember them. And in remembering, we keep the treaty. The deep water demanded that 4 be remembered. We remember them. That's the price of peace. Last week, a new officer joined Seminole Tribal Police, fresh out of the academy, eager to make a difference. During his orientation, I took him to the edge of bad water, showed him the signs, explained the treaty. "Is it real?" he asked. "The stories about bad water? Or are they just legends?" I looked at the dark water, perfectly still, reflecting the sky. Somewhere beneath that surface, ancient things dwelled. Things that had been here long before humans, things that would be here long after we were gone. "Does it matter?" I replied. "Real or legend, the danger is the same. People who ignore the warnings don't come back. Our job is to keep people safe. That means respecting the boundary, honoring the treaty, and understanding that some places aren't meant for us. But you've been in there. Everyone says you went into bad water and came back. I did. And I learned that respect is more powerful than bravery, that wisdom is choosing not to fight every battle, that some agreements, even agreements with things we don't understand, are worth keeping." The young officer nodded, looking at bad water with new eyes. Eyes that saw not just a swamp, but a boundary between worlds, a treaty line, a reminder that we share this earth with forces older and stranger than we can imagine. "What should I do if someone goes in?" he asked. "Wait 3 days," I said. "Give them time to find their way out. If they don't come back by day 3. I paused, thinking about Emily's smile, about the peace in her eyes, about the choice she'd made. If they don't come back, it means they chose to stay. I still patrol the Everglades, still watch the water, still listen for the calling, even though it never comes. Sometimes, late at night when the moon is full and the water is black as ink, I think I see faces beneath the surface. Smiling faces, peaceful faces, faces of people who chose the deep over the world above. And sometimes I wonder if they made the right choice. But then I feel the sun on my skin, taste fresh air in my lungs, hear my grandfather's laughter, see Chief Billy's approving nod. I feel the weight of my badge, the responsibility of my oath, the connection to my people and my land. And I know I made the right choice. I chose to remain human, to struggle and strive, to feel pain and joy, to live and eventually die. To be mortal, temporary, finite, but myself. The deep water offered me eternity. I chose a lifetime, and I have no regrets.